in fact, even the inconvenience of just going off-street will seem unacceptable. And so people will continue to drive in circles until they find an on-street parking space and not park off-street. And we tried an experiment in West Hollywood. The meters shut off in the Melrose area at 6 p.m. And of course, the meters are completely full. Customers have no place to go, workers have no place to go. And the parking lots off the street were empty. The city began operating the meters until midnight every night. And what we saw was that now the meter utilization, there's always a space available on just about every block, so people can tend to find parking if they want it, but it's a little pricey to park at the meters. And so what people do now is they go to one of the garages. And the garages are now operating at their optimal capacity of about 85%. And so just by charging people for the parking, they push them off-street. And so the way to think about it is if the most convenient, most visible spaces are free or inexpensive, few people will choose to pay the convenience price or the money price to park off-street. It's an interesting thing. The other, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'll get to you and then you. The other interesting thing that's been discovered recently about trends in traffic and all this, how many people think that by adding public transportation to an area, you reduce traffic? Okay.
Well, I think you would.
Yeah. So the answer is that the data don't support that, actually. Adding public transportation does not reduce traffic, for the most part. It increases access, but doesn't reduce traffic. How many people think adding...
Is that everywhere or just in this city?
It's almost universal. I mean, certainly everywhere in the English-speaking world, England, Canada, US, Australia. How many people think that adding parking reduces traffic?
That doesn't have to be anything with...
Yeah. And so interestingly, there was a recent experiment, a real-world experiment in Portland, Oregon, when they said you can now build apartment buildings without parking. And people have started to do this. And what they found, first of all, is that this is going to shock you guys. Apartments without parking rent for less than apartments with parking. I mean, everybody would pay less for an apartment without parking. So it's one way of making housing more affordable, actually, is to not include parking. And here's the amazing thing, is that they found that when you put an apartment building that's full of parking with regular 2 spaces per 1,000 or whatever the rate is, near a transit stop, near a light rail stop, how many people think that the people in that building drive less than people who live out in the suburbs in a...
It's a trick question.
It's a trick question. It doesn't matter that they're right next to the light rail if they have that parking. But when you don't build the parking in the building, people stop driving. Because if they don't own a car, they didn't drive in the first place. And if they do own a car, they don't want to lose that space that they got. So interestingly, the thing that we do in this city to mitigate our transportation problem ends up making it a lot worse. It makes it worse because it increases traffic, because people are all driving in and out. And it also addresses the problem that I don't remember which one of you brought it up. I think you brought it up, actually, that if people don't use the transit, then the transit goes away. And so by over-accommodating the car, we actually are undermining transit use. Yeah?
Is it true also along that study, I remember learning this in school, that if you increase lanes, that also does not reduce traffic?
Yeah, in fact, it's called induced demand. It increases traffic when you expand the space allotted for it, which is why the trend now is something called road diets to reduce the space allotted for cars. And I'm sorry, I think I said I'd get to you and then you. I'm sorry, it was you.
Yeah, it's okay. You can hear it. Go ahead, Lupe.
No, I'm calling my
Okay, our neighborhood for the last 40, 50, 60 years has been working and living like very, well, very good. We haven't had any trouble with traffic or overpopulation, and that's it. So why, what creates traffic is overpopulation, right?
Well, I would say it's overpopulation with cars.
With cars, exactly. So we're talking about parking, we're talking about cars. So why change it? Why to make an experiment with our neighborhood and see if it's going to work or not? It's going to affect us. Another thing is why we have to pay for parking. Why? For parking on our neighborhood. Why should we paying for
No,
parking.
I'm not advocating for any of those things, I'm simply.
No, that's what I'm saying,
describing-
I'm asking, yeah, why,
I
mean,
would argue here, based on what I've seen, and I think if you guys wanna look at parking, I would suggest collecting data before making any decisions about stuff.
I've been living here for 25 years.
Sure.
I exactly know
Right,
what's going
Based
on.
on what I've seen, the only parking problems that I've observed are the ones that you described, which are sort of special events that are inadequately, that maybe are not appropriate for.
Right now.
Right,
But when other people came,
Exactly.
when
And
the
so
gentrificators
today,
came, that's gonna be way
it doesn't
different.
make sense to charge for parking. If your parking gets too crowded, there are basically when your parking's oversubscribed and there are more cars looking for spaces than there are spaces, there are 3 ways to decide who gets those spaces. One way is through rationing. This is what they do in rich places like Santa Monica, where they say if you live here, you can get a parking pass, and if you don't live here, too bad. So that's rationing. Second way you can do it, which is the way we do it in most neighborhoods, is lottery system. So you drive around